Dummy Switch Pod.
Yes, sir.
The boys are back. The boys are back. That
Oh,
unfiltered rugby chat. How are you, Chris?
yeah, I'm good, Courts. How you doing?
Lions didn't make it. Bit sad, but
Oh,
life goes on.
yeah, look, I guess it was going to go either way, but look, I'm just glad that my Sharkies got it through, and we put
They
Province in
smelled
their
that
place.
blood in the water. Province,
I
as
told
always,
you.
staying at home.
Yeah, they're staying at home. That is, they're
Yeah,
going to be. Yeah. I think it was kind of a weird weekend of semi-final rugby, to be honest. Looking at it, the way if we're talking about the Bulls and Lions game, I don't know, man. It just, I just don't know where it went wrong for the Lions in terms of the mindset going into that game.
yeah. I have some idea, but yeah, let's start with that one. End of the day, you don't have the ball, you can't play. And I
Yeah.
felt like the Bulls did an excellent job of sort of preventing the Lions from playing, preventing them from rolling on. I mean, you
Mm,
saw beginning of the second half when Willem Albert scored his try. That was what we were looking for. That rolling, getting it going, getting it fired up. But
yeah.
you don't have the ball, you can't play. At the end of this one, the ball, the whistle is what killed the Lions.
Yeah. Look, geez, that I felt like some of the calls were just a bit too harsh, man. I just felt like it's almost like they got on the wrong side of the ref, and they stayed there, and she was just ready to punish them, for any sort of indiscretion, any technical sort of indiscretion. Granted, he also did penalize the Bulls here and there, but I felt the Lions they really got the brunt of that whistle, my man. Their ears were ringing on Sunday morning as well when they woke up. Just how many times they got blown up. It was hard to watch, to be honest.
Yeah.
For me, it was very hard to watch. It was a difficult game to watch because there's a lot of stop starts. There was no flow in the game. For me, it just looked like, I don't know if it was the heat or what. They just didn't look like they had the energy. They looked very pedestrian, and like you said, that second half when Willem Albert scored that try, I thought, okay, this is game on, because this is the Lions now coming to play, and all they need to do is just keep the tempo like that, and they'll take the game away from the Bulls. And credit to the Bulls, they kept the ball away from them, didn't allow the Lions to get a roll on, and hence the result that it was.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the ref in that way. I feel like it's an overcorrection for sort of what had been happening the previous 2 weeks. An
Yeah,
overcorrection for those calls and a lot more stricter, a lot more harsh calls. But I mean, end of the day, both teams have the same ref.
yeah, true. And at the end of the day as well, you have to. It's all about understanding the referee in terms of what he's looking for on the day, and really adapting. And I feel they didn't do that. The Lions really failed to do that.
Yeah, and I mean they lack discipline at points. I mean, especially Ori, some of those things are sort of needless. They are very needless.
No, you see, Ori's thing. Let's be honest. Ori was scared to tackle Dwayne Vermeulen. That's the thing. He was scared. And he thought, look, how the best way that I can try and bring this man down is to bring him down by the collar, because if I go low on him, he's going to put me on the ground. And testament to that, who's your hooker?
Yeah, he got steamrolled.
Yeah, geez, ran over him. You put him on the deck. Put him on the deck and even stepped on his arm. For good measure to make sure he stayed down. And I think that epitomized the value of a Dwayne Vermeulen in the Bulls
Yeah, I
setup.
mean, we talked about it. We talked about it
He
pre-game. Who
did.
would be the key man? And I feel like it was Dwayne Vermeulen and Van Staden
Yeah.
on the day.
Yeah, and those are the guys that you picked out, to say that they for the Bulls, they're the ones that needed to sort of, that we're going to make a difference, and they did. For me, equally on the other side of it, I was disappointed in that Chituka didn't really sort of impose himself, and I think the whole Lions pack struggled, to impose himself. But I wanted to see more from Vincent Chituka, to sort of at least have a say, and
Yeah,
and give the Lions a chance. Look, they weren't helped by the yellow cards. The yellow card to Ori,
yeah.
the one
That
to Willem. the one to Willem Alberts was questionable for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
understand
he did get back.
yeah,
So
I understand that first one. Thing is, the scrummy took the tap and he ran. I felt he ran about what 7-8 meters, and then before the tackle came in, so you allowed him to run at the ball, and you tackled him. So yes, you can understand why that was a penalty initially, but then that second one where he said he was offside. Looking at it on the replay, I don't think he was the player that was offside. They got the wrong guy. It's just and I don't think he should have been yellow carded for that, because that is effectively after that just took the game away from the Lions. That
yeah,
really buried them. And Ori as well, he didn't help his case, And another guy who I felt he really let me down in this game, honestly, and that's Alton Yankees, because I just his decision making was questionable on the day. I mean, even early on at the start of the second half, where he tried to run the ball out of his zone 22, and he got
yeah.
there's a play,
They got suffocated in their own 22 at one point.
and where there's a penalty, turnover penalty, 3 points, easy 3 points that he gave away. Because at the end of it, when you look at what the final score was, 26-21, was it? And you look at the amount of penalties that the Lions gave away. You
It
take
was
away those
ridiculous. If you look at that penalty count, it was ridiculous.
21. I think it was 21 penalties. You take away those penalties, that they gave to the Bulls, it's a much tighter contest, and put the discipline, have the discipline right. You could easily see the Lions winning that game, because I don't think the Bulls did anything special. It wasn't anything phenomenal from the Bulls. All they did was they
Yeah,
just took their opportunities when they came, and they capitalized on that. And it's credit to them, credit to the experience that they have on the field. But if I'm the Lions coach, if I'm the Lions playing group, I'm kicking myself. I would have been kicking myself from Saturday night all the way through to after the final this weekend, because I believe they should have been in that final. The game was there for them. It really was,
and
and
they
they
got.
just
I mean, you saw after halftime when they got rolling and towards the end as well. So
mm,
it just shows they can turn it on, but the problem is it's got to be sustained and it can't just be on and off, on and off. They got
yeah,
suffocated in their own 22. I think that was the demise. That was ultimately what killed the game off. Even when they were fighting against those penalties, they still managed to stay in the game. But that
yeah,
getting suffocated in their own 22 ended up being their demise.
yeah. And again, for me, it just comes down to that decision making element. And I don't feel like I'm picking on him today, but I honestly, I think both of us had even said that even for the Lions that Alton Yankees is going to be key, and he essentially what he had been doing all season long to get the Lions into that position. He was varying his game well, and he showed in the tighter games he was able to sort of contain the sort of ball in hand play and rather play the percentage play, and then know when we're running, when we're kicking, and kicking constructively to put
Yeah.
the defending team under pressure. And he just didn't do that. I mean, even in the first half, they just were not in sync. That one ball where he got and he passed it into Vincent Chituka, who overran
Yeah.
it. Passes being sprayed all over from 9. But it just it didn't look good.
Yeah,
And
they didn't show up from the beginning.
it really didn't look good. And you can argue, based on that, you know, you remember we talked about it last week about Mornay Steyn saying that he hasn't written his chances off for playing for the Springboks. If you look at that particular semi-final performance from Alton Yankees, you know, you wouldn't necessarily question a Springbok selection panel saying maybe Mornay Steyn does have one more season for us, because he'll at least be able to deliver the percentage plays when we need them. And Alton just didn't do that. And I felt, for me, Saturday's game was the prime opportunity for him to really to show his complete package. And I'm not saying that he should have been kicking the ball more, but show his complete package from a decision-making perspective to know, okay, here, instead of trying to kick long, we're just going to put it over little chips over the defense. I mean, the Pumas showed them that, and I would have thought that they would have taken
Yeah.
taken a leaf out of the Pumas playbook, because that's how the Pumas expose the Bulls. The defense is short little chips. Don't kick them too far, just behind the defensive line, and in those situations, especially when they were getting trapped in their 22, I felt they could have easily gotten out of their 22 with those clever kicks that he's done and he's executed all season. And just in this game, it just didn't click for them, So I don't know. I don't want to put too much blame on him, but I'll write it down to a lot of decision making areas from him, the pack not getting continuity, and then as well just things not falling their way on the day. We'll
Yeah,
leave it at that because they're a talented group, and we saw some flashes, and we've seen enough to know that look, they'll bounce back, they'll come back definitely, in whatever new competition is going to be rolled out. And for me, I'll take my hat off to a guy like Similane, who I felt even in this game he was eager, he was eager, could see that things were going to happen around him whenever he got his
yeah.
hands on the
Him
ball.
and Iskosan also sort of in the last quarter he turned it on a bit
Mm,
as well.
yeah.
It would have been this was essentially a stage for the coaching group as well to sort of
Mhm.
put their mark on the competition and say, hey, we're not just a bunch of PE teachers. But
Yeah,
they didn't, and they still showed that they're still that level. They're just that level, just
yeah,
under where they sort of where we also feel like they should be achieving.
yes,
Um, there's glimpses, but ultimately it's not good enough in terms of winning the competition.
yeah.
Also,
That
going to the refereeing, they're going to be in this new competition. How our call is going to be blown. I think that's why they've also tightened it up a bit, and I think they will
mm,
struggle if they don't adapt.
yeah.
They've got to keep that discipline, and you can't be giving away that many penalties.
Yeah, you can't win a game. You can never win a rugby game. Giving away 21 penalties, that's just ridiculous, And a lot of those penalties were silly as well. It's a lot of look. It's a positive thing for them is that a lot of those things are fixable. It's just
Yeah,
unfortunate that those that came at the wrong time. It came in crunch time in a knockout game, And look, they'll lick their wounds and reassess, I guess. And for me, the key thing as well, if we're talking about Marvin Ori, I feel Ori has shown enough promise, and that's why he ultimately became a Springbok, right? But he too has not necessarily stepped up in some elements, and the physicality part of it is one of them, and that physical confrontation, and that's where I'd pose the question to say a Darian Landsberg, you know, could there be potential for him to make his way back to Joburg because he's got similar traits as Ori in terms of contesting in the lineouts. But just for me, he seems to be a stronger ball carrier than Ori, a more productive ball carrier, and even more productive defender. So, what I think Ori he needs to count his blessings because I think the clock is ticking on him. Because he hasn't really as well sort of fulfilled on his promise. From his time at the Bulls where he showed that
I
potential,
feel
and
he
then
has. I feel like he stepped up. Maybe you're being a bit too harsh on the guy, but you know, for me, it's just the discipline. It's just those penalties that you're giving away.
yeah,
You can't do that, especially at crunch time, and especially
and,
when it's telling up against you. And, there's things where there's team infringements, and then there's the thing where it's just you,
yeah.
and a lot
I
of those
think
things
that's
it's just you now.
yeah. Look, maybe I am being a bit too harsh, but I just felt it was just like I was just annoyed. I think that's more than I think that sums it up for me is that I was
Yeah,
really annoyed with the Lions' performance because the, so it's big raps on them. I expected more from them, and the thing is, the reason why is because you know that they can do it. You know that they have all the weapons. They have all the attributes. It's just they just didn't
yeah,
put it
and
together.
especially looking forward, if they would have won this match,
Oh,
they're in with a great chance to win the tournament. So
yeah, if they had won this match, I think if they had won the semifinal, the final was gonna be easy for them.
yeah,
This was their I think the semifinal was their toughest test, and I think getting into the final, whoever they were going to play against was going to be whether that was going to be Province or the Sharks, that was going to be an easier game, and they were going to win that game. it was going to be a better final for them. But look, alas, that's what happened. You can't take away from the Bulls' performance as well. I mean, Stravino
Yeah.
Jacobs, he showed
Yeah.
his physicality as well. Curtly Aronson as well, in terms of his work at the breakdown, his one-on-one defending. There's crucial elements when the Lions are carrying the ball, and little Aronson is there stripping the ball away from guys like Yaku Creel, which you don't really see often. Yaku Creel being stripped of possession, especially when he's running down the trams. Look, it was good to see. I was happy for him. A guy like Sintu Manjezi as well.
Mm.
Look, one thing you can't take away from the Bulls' performance, and not that
Yeah.
they did anything special, but
They
there's
just show that they're
individuals.
not guys to be played with. They
Yeah,
just showed their seriousness. They just showed that they can step into those roles. I mean, even Cornell Hendricks, he
yeah.
showed sustained form at that 12. I think he was man of the match. So
Mm.
they just showed you don't come here and play games. So
Yeah, exactly. So look, you have to give them credit. And yeah, man, you can see the J-Quart element in it. Winning ways. So they, and look, at the end of the day, what counts is the win. And
yeah,
they got the win. They got themselves a home final, and look, we'll go into the next game. But to be honest, even if we're talking about the next game, based on that game, I don't see the Bulls. The tournament is the Bulls to lose. I'm a
yeah,
Shark
yeah,
supporter, yes, but this tournament is the Bulls' tournament to lose. I'll be very surprised if they don't lift the trophy.
yeah. Next one was Western Province at home with potentially the last game at Newlands, which turned out to be the
Hmm.
last game of Newlands.
Yeah,
Uh, these two finally meeting. I think there have been two cancelled games
yeah,
previous to this one, and I don't know.
man.
I mean, I wasn't as down on this game as you are. I don't. Maybe it's because I don't support either of them.
Look, at one stage in that game, I promise you, I literally said "sis," because I was watching this and I was just like, "What are these guys doing? The mistakes, drop
Yeah,
balls."
yeah. A lot of mistakes. Okay, early on, Sharks take the lead,
Yeah,
and sort of first 10 minutes, you could see what they were trying to do. It was all about line speed and it was all about defense. And then what else? Obviously, Bosch kicking them over from long range. That was
yeah,
their strategy.
that
So
was
I
a
have
strategy
to
for sure.
I have to commend the coaching staff for picking a tactic and sort of saying this is what we're going to do. And in the first half, I felt like they stuck to that brilliantly.
Yeah,
They sort of figured them out and said we're going to put this rush defense line speed and we're going to kill them and we're going to suffocate them. And
yeah,
essentially, Province were flustered.
yeah. They were.
They were flustered and they couldn't play.
Mm. That's true. They couldn't get started early on, and like you say, look, you're absolutely right. The Sharks did go there with that particular plan, and they knew that Kern Bosch can knock them over. If he's on song, and we did say as well that he would be the guy. He would need to show his metal in a crunch game away from home. And look, he took all the points that were on offer. And I felt he marshaled his team around. The kicking game wasn't so great, especially from 9. I think Sanele Nohamba was Sanele Nohamba. For me, I'd put it down to sort of teething problems. He's sort of regressing and from where he started. His box kicking is still very shallow. It's putting his own team under pressure, even his own decision making. Yes, he's snappy. He's having a good go at Herschel Yankees, and I think, in terms of reaction time and speed time, he's showing that he actually can be better than Herschel Yankees. And he was irritating him the whole day. But I just felt, just overall from a scrum off perspective and looking at his future prospects, I don't think he's really he hasn't necessarily covered himself in glory in the past few games that he's played, and you can see why a guy like Jaden Hendricks has sort of overtaken him and been able to start more than he has. So overall for me, to be honest, that I didn't enjoy that Western Province Sharks game at all. It is just I just felt it was poor. I felt it was labored. Sia Kolisi was
Yeah,
nowhere.
yeah,
He-
Khaleesi on and off with the bit of an injury there. They
yeah,
couldn't Western Province. They couldn't build phases. They couldn't get rolling. They couldn't get playing. Sort of the same problems that the Lions had, but this
mm,
one was just purely down to Sharks' defense. Sharks were all over the ball. There was.
yeah,
It's nice to see players being scrappy, and I mean there was one case where the ball sort of went loose and two Sharks guys dived on it at the same time, and
yeah,
you know that Richardson I think was showing up well in that one as well.
yeah. He was. I think look, they had more hunger than the Western Province guys. I think just besides even Western Province trying to get a roll on, I think one thing the Sharks did well is that they identified, and it's one thing that we've been saying all season long, is the Western Province have got no creativity, and
Yeah,
they knew that going into it, and it's a simple game plan. If you suffocate them and you put them under pressure when they
yeah.
have the
They showed they can't execute under pressure. They can't
yeah,
execute, and this is something that they couldn't do this against the Lions, for example.
yeah,
So they caught them out, and it also showed it showed a big weakness and vulnerability in Western Provinces. Their whole setup. You can't handle the pressure.
yeah,
Because essentially, it could be an age group, high school B team thing of just rush them.
yeah, exactly. And like you said, they were flustered. I mean, credit. Look, I know we spoke about the scrum, Alistair for Mark. Look, he didn't start off too well, but
Yeah,
credit him for fighting back and keeping them in the fight in the battle at scrum time. And
which also
but
falls on Toy to say that I had the scrums down as relatively uneventful. I
yeah,
mean, we spoke about it before, saying this was an area they could possibly target, and it was sort of uneventful. It was like a normal match where no one's really establishing dominance, and it's one this way, one that way.
yeah, and Thomas Dutoy, if I was him, I'd be very disappointed, to be honest, because he got that
This
first
is his
scrum.
level. This is who Thomas Toy is. This is his
You
level.
say it's his colors, it's his true colors.
Yeah,
So yeah, look, we haven't, and you're right. If we're being honest, we haven't seen anything else other than exactly this from him. So yeah, and you know what, it was just for me overall, the whole game was just disappointing. Because yes, Sia Kolisi is in and out, but you would have thought with him coming back in this game, in a semi-final, he would have sort of dug deep and found another gear
yeah,
to. I mean, it's the last game at Newlands, and
yeah,
it takes you back. I was having a conversation, with someone about how rugby sort of changed in a way in terms of the player mentalities. I mean, if you think back, maybe 5-10 years ago, where you've had maybe, just as an example, you have a Skulkberger, maybe he was out for a couple of weeks, then he comes back and he just he shows you that, listen, he's been hungry to get back on the field. He makes that presence felt, even if he plays just 40 minutes, in a big game. But he's had that impact, and I was sort of expecting something like that from Sia. To I mean, it's potentially the last game at Newlands, man.
yeah. They didn't live up to that whole sort of sentimental. Let's go out
Yeah,
and win it for the boys. Last one at Newlands. They didn't live up to that whole thing. So
you know what I mean. Like I would have, look, I would have taken,
they didn't look motivated. They didn't look motivated.
They didn't. Honestly, I would have taken a Sharks loss if Western Province came out with that passion, that fire, that flair, that intensity, where you're just like, okay, no, you can see these guys, it's their last time here, and they're making it count. You can accept that. You can take it and say, okay, I know they feel on emotion, but there was nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there.
Yeah.
It was just another day at the office for them. And look, yeah, we win, we lose, we lose. It
They need
doesn't
to
matter.
fire up that any given Sunday inches.
Yeah, I think that's the motivation that they need, because
Yeah, and it's for me a lot of it just falls on the coaching staff. They just seem quite bland.
mm,
not coming out with any fire. I
Yeah,
mean, they even I mean tactically going for line when you can see you're unable to build phases, you're unable
yeah,
to get it going, but you're going for this was actually a problem I had with the Lions as well, where they could have taken points essentially, but
yes.
they chose we're gonna play. That's their identity. But sometimes you got to take into consideration this is semi-final rugby.
Yeah, but you know, it's the funny thing about that when you were talking about, if just quickly talking about the Lions, is that we actually saw them do that in games before the semi-final where
Yeah,
things,
yeah, against the Pumas.
yeah, where things were tight, and you know, they took the points. And I was thinking, look, they're getting into that mindset of knowing that, look, this is knockout rugby. All that matters is a win, and they didn't do that. And the same with Western Province. Look, for me, I was happy because I was just like, oh, really? This is what they do. They're going for the
Mm,
line, and they got another penalty, and they went for the line again. And for me, it's you question number one, coaching, the coaching group. And then number two, you question the leadership on the field. Is that at no stage did you ever have dominance. So what makes you believe that because you
yeah.
have this penalty and you're going to kick for line that you will score a try?
Which is
It doesn't
another
happen.
thing that I think we're going to struggle with when we enter the competition with Northern
Mm-hmm.
Hemisphere guys, because I mean, I think they're more tactical and
Yes.
more, sort of knowing. I think they're just more clued up on that side of rugby.
Yeah,
We
I
just
think
want to play. We just want to play.
and look, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to play. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to play. But at the same time, teams we need to be. I feel like they need to be honest with themselves while they're on the field to
Yeah,
say, okay, to say, look, we're not breaking this defensive wall down. We're not getting through them. So let's just take the three that's on offer, you know, and let's take the kickoff. We get out of here and let's try again and see
yeah,
if we can generate the momentum. You know, if that was their approach, perhaps that game for the Sharks for Western Province would have been a different result because that would have sort of put a lot of pressure as well onto the Sharks from a scoreboard perspective, and it didn't happen. But I felt that they had some players that when they came on from the bench, I think there was a blood replacement, and one of the flankers that came, I think it was Yaku Kutsia.
yeah. Cause yeah,
When he came on with that blood bin replacement, I thought I think he had come on for Kolisi, who had gone
police.
off
Yeah,
for blood, and when he was on there, sort of the energy that he brought looked very different. You know, you felt that okay, this kid he's trying to bring them back into the game. But look, overall, for me, Western Province is just poor. And look, as expected, they'll stay at home, but it's just a highlight of what their season was. You know, they were just
mm,
and then the Sharks for me really was just, you know, I'm just glad that they got the win, number one, you know, but at the same time, there's just so many things that you know, when you look at the overall play, you just think to yourself that, geez, against the Bulls team at
yeah, yeah.
Loftus,
For me, I look at Oxen Chairs yellow. What's going to happen is the same thing that happened with the Lions. They're just
yeah,
going to be a penalized yellow card, and they're just going to run the score up. So that's going to be a problem for them. Other thing I noted, Nohamba Hendricks that came on for him in the second half, although
yeah.
they did hint that it might be an ankle injury, and we've
Nah, it wasn't.
seen.
Nah, it wasn't. It wasn't. He was shit.
Uh,
Excuse my French, but
okay, so I mean,
he
we're going into next week's game. Hendricks has got the start. Nohamba's on the bench, so we don't know to what degree it's an ankle injury. We don't know to what extent it's form. You think it's form?
I believe it. I believe it is for. You know, I think Noamba was given a chance. You know, to say, okay, well, this is a semi-final. You know, you've played down here before. You've played against racial Yankees. You've shown him up in the Springbok. What is that? Super fan, or was it super fan or Springbok showdown? That's what it was.
Yeah,
And where Nohamba did show Herschel Yankees up, and you would have thought that you know he was going to be able to find his groove again in order to secure a berth in the final, and him not starting in the final for me just underlines the fact that he's not on form, and that's what it is. Jaden Hendricks has come on. He was even when he came on against Province, he just
my goodness, that is an irritating player.
but I like him. I like that attitude. He's annoying.
Yeah, it's nice when he's on your side, but if he's not on your side, you're just like, "Ugh, this guy."
yeah, but typical nines, right? They're gonna be in your ear,
Yeah,
be
he's
in your
an old
face,
school man.
and I like that about him, and it'll be interesting to see how he's gonna fare because potentially he could be sort of the difference for the Sharks, in terms of how they where they play on the field, in terms of territory and how they execute, in the final. But just to say, overall, I was just disappointed with the Sharks. That fact of the matter, I would have been disappointed if they didn't win that game against Western Province because Western Province had been that poor, and they showed that. So if you can't even beat a poor side, then really you have to look at yourself in the mirror. So at least they got that win. They were able to take their points, but
Yeah.
overall, looking at the whole team, I'm just
Yeah.
I'm not
Interesting.
convinced.
It'll be interesting to see what tactic they come out in the next game.
Yeah,
Though for this one, if you want to talk general play, someone for me, Cohen Bosch, not kicking penalties out, that poor pass to Fasi, you
yes,
know, knocking on high balls. You want to talk, I mean, we talk about Monet Steyn sort of having his last season for Springboks. Definitely up, definitely above Cohen Bosch.
for sure. I completely agree with you. Outside of the fact that Bosch can boot the ball and he
Yeah.
can kick points, but you look at that, he was not under pressure, and potentially you could have put Fassi, you could have allowed Fassi to do some, to do something with the ball, and it gives the kid a shocking pass, absolutely shocker of a pass, and you just think to yourself, okay, what's wrong with this kid? What's wrong? A few weeks ago, your coach was saying you're an international 10.
Yeah.
You were also talking about how you want to play in the British and Irish Lions series. My man, with that pass, just that play alone, he's not even going to be in the training group, because you can't have that guy in there because he will lose you a game. That mistake against a British and Irish Lions team will lose you a game. So he's not going to be in that squad. I'm sorry, Curran Bosch, but that's not going to happen. You can forget. Maybe in 12 years' time, when when you're older. But no, it's not going to happen. It's really not going to happen. And you look at it overall. I mean, even a guy like Skumbuzo Noche, I felt he had a better effort, if I can put it that way. I'm not saying he had a better game.
Yeah.
He had a better effort this time around. He's playing against his old friends. Of course, he has to show up. He has to show up and say, I know you boys.
He has to make his
But
ex miss him.
what he did to the poor kid, what he did to the poor kid, he sold him for, geez, he sold him down the river. I just, when I saw that, I blamed him. I was just like, Skumbuzo Noche, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, he definitely needs to send something, a couple of beers, some flowers, anything.
Oh no, he owes Nohamba. He absolutely owes him. He owes him everything. Like, especially if they had to win. If they had to win the final, by some miracle, the Sharks win the final, then he owes Nohamba a case of beer during this sort of lockdown in South Africa. I don't know where he'll get it, but he
Yeah,
owes him.
lockdown prices. He needs to
You
pay
know,
those lockdown
he
prices.
needs to, because that was a horrendous pass. And
Shout
yeah,
out Davis there for the rock bottom. That one was
yeah, but you look, shout out to him. For he read the play well. And he just, damn, I felt that. Oh man, I felt that from my couch. I was just like, oh, poor kid. But look, credit to him. He took it well. He got up and he was back in action.
yeah.
So but at the end of the day, for me, it's just the Sharks. The Sharks team, for me, I don't feel that they're ready for a final against the Bulls at Loftus. I just don't see it. I just don't. I don't see them.
Yeah, let's get into to next week. Well, sorry, this weekend's game.
Yeah,
Bulls one change just at hooker. I personally feel like that change should have been made already. I mean, I sort of prefer Hrobler at
yeah.
hooker, so it's not much of a change. So I think him coming off the bench in the Lions game sort of propelled him in the same way that Hendricks and Nohamba, where it's like there is not much of a difference, but there is a difference.
Mm. Yeah, look, Bulls are settled.
Yeah,
Bulls are settled. I think Lizo Koboka is going to be finding
yeah,
his.
he's done well. He's done well. The
He
pasta
is.
has done well since his
Yeah,
return.
yeah. Mfundisi, I know he has been really. I guess he's been in prayer. His his prayers being answered, and then look, I just hope he stays injury free. Really, just for his long term aspirations and his his potential opportunities that he has to be a Springbok. Because right now, if you had to ask me, who's going to be your backup number one who's a
Kids
boy,
off.
Steven Kitshoff. I feel better knowing that Lizo Koboga is healthy because I'd rather pick him
Mm.
over Ox in chair, because Ox in chair has just is one of those players as well that hasn't really
Yeah, he hasn't kicked on.
he hasn't kicked on, and it's concerning. If I was him, I'd look. He's still young enough, I guess. In terms of front rankers age, but for somebody that's had at least a taste of that green jersey, you'd expect him to be wanting to sort of step it up and push it up a gear. But Lizard Koboka being back is good. Nyagane, we know what we get from him. Manjezi, there he is again, starting in the final.
Yeah,
And for me again, I'm just happy for the guy. I'm absolutely happy. If you think where he came from, and here he is, he's starting in the Currie Cup. He played the whole game last weekend.
yeah,
And then here he is again in the final. It's and I think I can remember a couple of weeks ago I was just thinking about okay, how many black South African locks are they contending to say okay, top locks. And clearly, and you have to give credit to Jake White. Love him or hate him, Jake White has always been the guy to give guys an opportunity, and he's able to spot those guys that will work, and that have that work rate. And look, there he is. Manjez is in the final, is starting at Loftus for the Bulls at lock. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's just like okay,
I mean, he does it. He does it in selected areas. We've seen the same thing with Trevino Jacobs.
yeah,
My only issue is he tends to throw players away quite easily, which is you've seen at wing position, Stickling
yeah,
and can't remember the other guy's name, but I mean they're essentially out in the woods right now. I mean, just came
yeah.
back from Europe and looks like he's gonna have to head out. Travis Ishmael. It looks like
Travis Ishmael.
where does he fit into things now? It looks like the same situation that happened to, like, let's say Josh Strauss, where you come back,
Mm.
sort of things look good. Jake White comes in, looks like you're packing your bags again. It looks like the same thing's gonna happen to him.
Yeah, it seems that way, but looking at for me, I just feel like this Bulls team is very settled.
Yeah,
David Creel, he's been solid at fullback. Curtly Orense, I think, absolute find of the season. From if we're looking at wingers, I think he stands head and shoulders above every other winger, that's currently playing in the country. If I wouldn't even question a selection of Curtly Orense into a broader Springbok group. Looking at the British and Irish Lions, because he just he's got that thing, man. He's got that X factor. He's got that ability. Marco Janssen van Vuren at outside center. I haven't seen too much of him, but I think
he
he'll
held
solid.
up. He held up his end. So I mean, I can't
Yeah,
can't knock him.
yeah. And then Cornel Hendricks as well. I mean, to think a couple of seasons ago, nobody wanted to sign this guy because of his heart condition. That forced him to sort of stop playing rugby. And here he is, from winger to inside center, is in the Currie Cup final, and
Yeah,
you have to take your hat off to him
yeah.
more
Others
than
would have
anything, because
folded. Others would have folded. They would have called.
yeah,
Essentially at that period, you're thinking, should he call it a day? But he's pushed on, and he's done. It's a second career.
yeah, and look, he's another player as well, even if it had to be on the wing, but he's another player where you think to yourself, okay, well, he is a capped Springbok, and again, it wouldn't really concern you if he had to get picked in a broader Springbok team, whether that be for to play wing and cover center, But essentially, for him, all he's done, he's done himself a solid and raised his stock, because now he can cover two positions, which makes him a valuable player to have. So I'm happy for him. Stravino Jacobs, I think his physicality, my goodness, he was giving the Lions guys problems on the weekend. Just yeah, he's running. He's a strong runner. He's a good
Yeah.
player. Mornay Stein, look, he's got his vulnerabilities. That's one thing for sure. And you can get to him. That's one thing for sure. You can get to him, but
That's why I
you
say it's
also
going to be interesting to see what sort of tactics the Sharks, are they going to play the same way in defense? Like
and
how are they going to approach this game?
yeah, true. Considering what I'm excited about this game. This is it's a rematch for who's Richardson, because that last game
Yeah.
that round robin game where he had a lot to say to Dwayne Vermeulen,
Even in
so
this one, even this weekend's one, I mean, the one, I think it was around about the second or third scrum,
yeah,
they got it going. He immediately disengaged from the scrum and was in their face. He was basically in the eighth man's face.
yeah. Look, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Is that it shows that he has that passion, I guess, and he wants
Yeah,
to.
he's just that type of character.
Yeah, and look,
I
you
like
can't
that.
fault him.
I like that.
Same, because he's in the game, like we here to play, and look, if you're weak enough to fall for those kind of tactics, he's gonna come at you all day, and I just want to see how he's gonna back up, that result that the Sharks had against the Bulls at home,
Yeah.
how he's gonna back that up, because that was like a big talking point after that
Yeah.
round
Now you
robin
had
game.
Loftus and
Yeah, exactly. So again, this for me, this is a very set to Bulls pack. For me, I'm more worried about the Sharks pack because Fez Mbata, for me, he looked a bit, how can I say, more sort of circumspect in that game against Western Province because he was up against Mbonambi, and I think
mm,
I was just looking at just his body language, particularly when they got to scrum time and things like that. It just look, you can see he respects the guy, in terms of he's a Springbok hooker, World Cup winner. I just felt he was a bit circumspect and he didn't sort of assert himself. And look,
yeah.
this is a game where maybe he can also step out of his shell because it's going to require the Sharks to do something out of the box, something extraordinary to beat the Bulls at Loftus in a Currie Cup final. Something that I just do not see happening. I'm a Sharks supporter. Don't get me wrong. I'd love for the Sharks to win. But in terms of what the Bulls and the consistency that the Bulls have had throughout the
Yeah.
season, they've been the most consistent team out of all the other teams. In terms of the way that they play, they have that identity, what they want to do. They know that they have their structures set. So it's just difficult for me to see the Sharks coming away with a win.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. I've got the Bulls winning this one.
Mm,
I'd just like to see how the Sharks approach this game. Keen to see sort of Jaden Hendricks,
yeah.
Pasi,
Yes.
Spoon Corsi, how these guys sort of react to this game. Because, like Spoon Corsi, I view him as a big time, big player. He gets those big plays.
Yeah.
So I want to see how he does in this one. The same thing with Hendricks. There's
Yes.
guys here that I believe they'll turn up individually.
Yes.
So it's just whether the team shows up or not. But I'm the same. I'm the same in my position of having the Bulls to win this one.
Mm. Look, it's for me, it's difficult to even say that, but I have to be realistic and if we're being honest about everything, I certainly agree with you. I want to see how fast he's gonna react in this game because this is a big game for him. He's still a young kid, and a lot, a lot will be sort of found out about him and his character after this game. Win or lose. Same with Spoon Kosi, like you say, he's a big time player. Even Lucanio Arm, I think this game more than anything, his leadership is going to come into question. Even his play. Marius Lowe, he's solid.
Yeah, Low as well
He's
now.
been
Low against Hendricks. It's
yeah.
again because I mean, as much as we've said, Hendricks has always been solid. there's going to be those guys in the top position to say like, oh, you think you're an inside center.
Yeah. So that's the thing, So I'm keen to see how they're going to fare. Yao Pengle as well,
A bit
look,
sloppy in the last game.
he was, but his strength is, look, you can't, his explosiveness, his power,
Yeah,
you can't take that away, So he's at least got that. Then Curran Bosch, the pressure is going to be on him, of course. He had Loftus altitude, that big boot is going to be put to work. I think that's how they're going to approach it. I don't think they'll change too much. I
they
think what they'll
won't.
try
They
and do is
won't.
this.
It's
I
just
think
whether it's just
what
his
they'll
in-game play. That's the only question.
Yeah, because fact of the matter is this: is that with Fassi there, Fassi is a great counter attacker, and I think depending on how the kicking game is going to unpan during the game, I foresee Fassi coming in there and being lethal. So individually, like you said, echo your sentiments. Is going to be interesting to see how they go. I think again, I'm going to put a spotlight and circle number 8, Skumbuzo Noche. I feel like you may think I'm targeting him, which I am actually, because it's him against Dwayne Vermeulen.
Yeah,
He's played with him at Western Province / Stormers before, so they've been in the same sort of Springbok setup before, you know. Now, now it's his chance. You need to show, okay. So if we're basing it on the teams that are in the final, what this means is that these are the two best number 8s in the country. Not I know it's not really that, but they're the two number 8s that are in the final. So
yeah,
they're the top two based on the team's results, right? So now it's his time to show that, okay, is he or is he not a big time player? And if he fails in this game, and I'm not talking about the Sharks winning, I'm just talking about his own individual performance and his ability to influence and impact the game. If he fails, then I'd seriously have a big question mark around him retaining that number 8 jersey for the Sharks, because yes, the coaches will back him, but look, I think for him as well, the clock is ticking and the patience will wear thin, because he needs to show. I mean, come on, if you think of Sharks historic number 8s, if I talk around Kenkowski, even a number 8, you think to yourself, okay, look, there was a player, you knew he was going to set,
yeah,
he would set the game alight, as much as he had his own flaws from a physicality perspective, but from at least from an attacking point of view, what he lost from a physicality at least made up in getting those breaks. And Noche, look, even if we're on attack, all he's doing is giving hospital passes. So I mean, it's just like, come on, So
yeah.
look,
I mean, for me also, Van Staden again. I feel Dwayne Vermeulen Van Staden on that sort of the bull side,
mhm,
shark side. For me, really, it's just Cohen Bosch.
it
He's
is.
he's that man. If we're talking about key players, I've got those three. It's just how things pan out on the day.
Yeah, I think actually we should also just keep an eye out on JJ van der Mesh. Um,
Yeah,
he's a big lump of beef, and if I think if he's able to throw his weight around
he
at
did it in the
Loftus,
province game, but again, I don't know what it is with logs and discipline. I mean,
yeah,
it used to be sort of the hookers and discipline, but now it's tending to be the logs. I don't know what's
yeah,
going on there. But I felt he did throw himself around that Western Province game. We'll see
hmm
how he approaches it in this one. I mean, there is an opportunity for him to put that, put a bit of
yeah.
muscle in.
That's true. The only thing I'm worried about, to be honest, is just the bench. The benches. I think the benches are they sort of even each other out. It's just there's nobody that really stands out. I think maybe like a Manny Liebok, if he gets a chance to come on, maybe he'll be a factor. In that game. Tembelani Boli, perhaps. You know,
Papier on the other side, I feel, both scrum offs, now they've put this whole narrative of Farid Dupriya coming
yeah.
in them and coaching them, and he's the scrum half whisperer. They've
You
they've
know.
they've made this whole narrative that's he's turning their form around, and
Mm,
I don't know.
I don't know. Look, we'll see. We'll see. You know, we'll see. At the end of the day, it's all going to be about who gets the W on the weekend. I don't see the Sharks. I don't. It's hard for me to say it, but I just don't see them doing it at Loftus. Yeah, yeah. Just the Bulls.
The
It's
Bulls.
hard. It's hard, but the Bulls. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's where we'll end it for this week.
yeah,
Have a good weekend, guys. Get
yeah.
some beers going if you can. Get some chops going. Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game. You know, get those lockdown prices. You know, and yeah, enjoy. Look, good luck to the Sharks. I'd say I'm hoping. My heart says, please, Sharks win by 3 points. You know, drop goal at the end, Kern Bosch. But you know, my head is saying the Bulls are going to take it. So, yeah.
Optimistic there. I've got Bulls taking it. And that's it for us this week. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you.
Dummy Switch Pod. We're out.
Cheers.